Hey, this is Nathan with Analog Reviews, and today we're having a look at Dark. Dark has been developed by Realmforge Studios and is marketed as a stealth action role-playing game. I guess having 8 abilities and having the odd interactive dialogue sequence is enough to constitute calling this game an RPG. Not to mention it's not much of an action game either, as the controls, combat, and gameplay are all quite weak. So what you're left with is a 5-hour mediocre stealth game. Now that I've got that out of the way, the game has you assume the role of Eric Bane, a recently created vampire who is suffering from amnesia. He's been abandoned by his creator, and without the blood of an ancient vampire, he will end up turning into a mindless ghoul. The game begins in a nightclub where Eric encounters other vampires who decide to aid him as he tries to prevent his transformation. Dark actually makes a strong first impression, as the cel-shaded art direction and environments are interesting as they hint at the game possibly being deeper than it actually is. Unfortunately, that's not the case in the long run, as you'll quickly become bored. The story is quite bland, typical, and predictable. You're able to find notes similar to a lot of other games that provide a bit of backstory and context, but they don't do much to enrich the story. The combat and general gameplay is the weakest point in Dark. The stealth mechanics are inconsistent. Sometimes you'll be in plain sight and your enemies won't notice you. Other times they'll come charging at you from a mile away. Essentially, you want to kill every enemy you encounter stealthily, which basically means walking up behind them and clicking them. If you hold down the mouse button, you'll drain their blood instead, which essentially acts as a mana bar for your special abilities. The 8 special abilities level up and consist of things like making you more difficult to detect, increasing your health, or granting you offensive abilities. Unfortunately, the stealth sections are incredibly boring, and you simply just have to sit there and wait for an opening in the guards' patrol paths. They tend to just walk back and forth along a straight line and don't behave the way a human normally would. If you're detected, you're treated to some of the worst unintuitive combat ever seen in a video game. You simply have to walk towards the enemy and click them, which will allow you to defeat them with one punch while they backpedal and repeatedly fire on you with their assault rifles. The fact that Eric is a vampire doesn't seem to matter much, as he's quite slow compared to backpedaling humans. The game does become a bit more bearable later on as you level up, allowing you to rely more on various abilities. With a lack of items and having only a few interactive conversations, it doesn't classify this game as an RPG in the slightest. The controls are also quite awkward, having both attack and the ability to swap from cover locations assigned to the same key. Dark has you traveling to a few interesting and varied locations, but the game ruins this by including tons of backtracking and scripted events. You'll almost always arrive at a locked door in every area, where you'll have to travel back the exact route you took earlier in order to unlock the door while you fight through a ridiculous amount of guards. Dark is also very linear and doesn't allow for any exploration. Graphics in the game are honestly kinda bad, as are the animations, which look stiff and unnatural. Fighting a human enemy, for example, looks terrible, as Eric's face sort of just hovers there while the enemy's eyes become detached from the character model. The art direction is decent, however, as is the variety of environments. The music in the game varies. Some songs are alright, while others become annoying and repetitive quickly, which matches the gameplay for the most part. The voice acting is also inconsistent. Fans of the Witcher series will immediately recognize Eric as Gestalt, and his narrative is one of the few things that is well done in the game.
My name is Eric Bane.
Unfortunately, some of the other characters are horribly acted.
You can't hurt me! You can't hurt me! Die!
Overall, Dark is mediocre at best, and should be avoided for the most part. The game feels like a chore and features some of the worst combat in recent memory for a video game. The story is bland, offering nothing original, and the game is only 5 hours long, which is ridiculous for a self-proclaimed RPG. Even though the game is offered at the price of $40 opposed to $50 or $60, it should still be avoided for the most part. If you're like me and you already purchased the game, my condolences.